Welcome. This is derived from a biology and human behavior lecture from Robert Sapolsky about how biology is a possible factor in human behavior and individuality. Could behaviors often be explained as that what were explained as a midlife crisis actually be the result of a mutation in a single gene? Could abnormal levels of a brain chemical actually cause an obsessive personality quirk? Could the onset of a subtype of epilepsy actually be the true cause of sudden religious conversion? Well, those three questions, the answer may be yes. People are accustomed to thinking that they are individuals in control of their own behavior. However, there is a science that suggests that biology is very important in affecting behavior. Questions arise when people try to understand things like criminal behavior, depression, learning disabilities. And there's an intertwining between the chemistry of the brain and human behavior. The mind influences the body, and the body influences the mind. So looking at this picture of figure 4.5, the structure of a neuron, the basic constituent of the nervous system is the brain cell. The main brain cell is the neuron. All neurons go, when they're drawn correctly, from left to right. I don't know if this one's drawn correctly. The dendrites create chemical excitation in the neuron. And a wave of chemical excitation passes down a long cable called the axon. Axons are very long projections of neurons, and at the end of the axon is the axon terminal that connects to the dendrites of the next neuron. Glial cells, which were once thought to be unimportant, wrap around the axon and form a myelin sheath. And that myelin sheath creates an insulation that increases the speed with which electrical waves move down the axon. And people are not born with these myelin sheaths. As myelin sheaths form, new skills are possible. So a lot of what we can do, we can't do till we're, let's say, age 5 or so, remember things. And that's because these myelin sheaths haven't formed well until we're a little older. Neuronal communication includes both resting potentials and action potentials. To be prepared to communicate clearly, neurons must concentrate on contrast during resting potentials. In a state of equilibrium, neurons create chemical contrasts. Neurons expend a great deal of energy redistributing ions during the resting potential. When new information is transmitted by a single dendritic spine, channels open and ions began to move, causing a change in the electrical state of the neuron. No single neuronal input triggers an action potential. There is not enough power for the flow of electrical information to continue. Integration at the neuronal level occurs because of a process called summation. Temporal summation is when the same input is triggered over and over so that it finally moves down the axon. Spatial summation is when enough different dendritic spines are being stimulated at once so that information moves down the axon. And a neuron body is an integrator of the inputs of all these different neurons around it, giving them both temporal and spatial summation. So when there is enough of a wave of depolarization to reach the axon hillock integrates the various inputs and decides whether or not to act. When the axon hillock is triggered to act, neurons are in action potential. Action potential does not decrement over space and time. It regenerates and continues passing information through the axon terminals to the next neurons, and the axon hillock is a critical feature of this system. Neurons are a complex integrated network with interesting implications. The number of dendrites, neurons, and connectors varies from individual to individual and can change at different points in a person's life because of environmental stimulation. Axon hillocks can also change over time and under different circumstances. So we see here, for example, the synaptic bulb and synaptic cleft, the end of the of the neuron, and these neurotransmitters that go back and forth can be substituted for with drugs. And so drugs take the place of what are normally in the synaptic cleft, whether that be dopamine or a different neurotransmitter, serotonin, dopamine, etc. Thank you very much.